Hi there, my name's Scott. I have about 180 couple acres here on Ranch, just outside Sharpsburg on Mondale and Powell Roads. I run about 50 couple head of brood cows that I have a fall calving herd and a spring calving herd. We're standing with the spring calving herd now. Well, it's getting warm today, so they're already down for the day. But yeah, I wean these calves off in the fall, and we'll sell them either privately or through Winchester Livestock Sales as weaned calves, hoping they average 500, 550, and keep a couple heifers for replacement heifers, and then I'll do that again with the fall herd. We have another 20 couple cows in the fall herd that will do the same thing. They'll start calving September, October. These calves start calving April, May, and I run bulls out. I just bull breed the cows, and that's him over there. That's the bull I'm running this year. I buy purebred bulls out of Virginia. A lot of purebred sales down there, and I buy bulls out of there. They've done well for me.
Little background.
Background on myself.
Yeah.
Background on myself. Grew up around here. Grew up on this farm. Grew up across the road, across Powell Road, on another farm. Helped my father starting at, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. I think I first raked hay when I was 7. I had trouble stepping on the clutch of the little 231 to get it to stop. But yeah, I remember raking hay as a little child, and then was raised, like I say, on this farm on the other side of the road with all beef cattle. Just went to high school, did some athletics in high school, ran some track, played some basketball. And then I ended up I wanted to be a vet whenever I got to high school. I wanted to try to be a vet, and that didn't quite work out, but I did end up going to Garrett Community College for 2 years, transferred down to Virginia Tech in '84, and graduated down there with a BS in animal science. Got a job off campus down there during the summers, and started working for someone else and building cow herds and running feedlots while I was down there. And then since then have continued to do that. Never really came back home. Started working at Gene Mullenex's down at the Woodbine area, down to feedlot he had. Moved on from there up to Baltimore County and started a purebred Angus herd up there. Ran about 100 head feedlot up there where we chopped corn and haylage and ran fat cattle through a local butcher shop. Most of it sold privately, and then came back home here. My mom and dad finally talked me into coming back home, and then with a lot of giving and a little bit of money, me and Christy, my wife, have ended up with Ranch at the 182 acres. And I started working across the road for a few years and decided that wasn't going to work out for me, so I ended up going to Willard Agri-Service. Started spraying for them, and that was 21 years ago. It's been a little while now, but and then my dad took care of this place while I was working, and he was getting up there a little bit in age, but he could handle all the stuff that went on here. I just helped him out whenever I could with running cow sus chute and stuff like that. But yeah, I've been with the Willards now for 21 years, and we farm about 3,000 acres in Montgomery and Frederick counties. Corn, soybeans, wheat, and sorghum. We just got done our wheat harvest last weekend. A little disappointing this year, but we've had a lot of good crops here in the recent years. So, and then yeah, this is more or less my hobby. When I get time to work at home, I deal with the cows.
Now, Ranch is Century Farm.
Yeah, the Ranch was a Century Farm. It turned to Century Farm back in 2017. So that meant it was been in the family for 100 years. I would be the 4th generation to have that farm. So it would be my father and my mom, and then my grandfather, and then his father got it in 1917. So yeah, that's a pretty big deal these days. There's not many. I can't exactly remember how many century farms there are in Maryland, but there's not many. So it was an honor to get that award for that. We do run a lot of intensive grazing here at the farm, like these spring cows right now. I have them running on approximately 40 acres of grass with about 12 different cells in that 40 acres. And I'll move them, depending on the size of the cell, I'll move this herd about every 2 days or maybe 3 days. Depends on what size the cells are. Some of them are real little. I might have to move them every day. But as long as we're getting rain, that will raise these calves up to weaning in the fall. And like I say, we do that even with the fall herd. I'll do that through the winter on stockpile fescue. I got about another 30 acres of that I'll fertilize come the middle of August, and I will intentionally graze that through the fall and into the winter. Last winter I only had to feed for about 30 days. The fall group. I intend to feed the spring group. I really only, out of the 180 couple acres we have, I really only have about 98 acres of true grass. The rest of it are rock breaks and trees and wooded areas. We got about 48 acres of woods. So I don't have a whole lot of grazing acres. So that's why I turned to the intensive grazing and the cell grazing. And these girls, it's nothing to move these cows throughout the cells. I mean, I just yell at them. Or if I'm on the four-wheeler, which they love the four-wheeler, once they hear that four-wheeler, they'll start coming towards me no matter where they are. Whether they're hungry or not hungry, they'll just come towards me and want to move. Grass is always greener on the other side. But yeah, I don't know. Like here, I got 23 cows in here with about 20 calves, and they're getting bred. I'm running the bull with them right now. He'll be in here for another month, about 30 more days, and that'll give me that April-May calves that I was looking for.
So besides sending them to market, do you have the calves going anywhere else, or?
I used to sell some privately. I've gotten out of, I spend so much time on my off the farm job that I've run out of time here at my place. So I used to sell a lot privately. Anymore, I sell them in bunches, more at the livestock auction. And then I'll keep, like I said earlier, I'd keep some replacement heifers, anywhere from 2 to 5, maybe even 6, depending on what kind of crop I got, to put back into the herd. And then I'll keep, like this year I got 3 steers that I kept that I'll feed for freezer beef for friends and family. But these girls, they're cool. It's a nice cool day today, and they're loving life. And I got a couple you can pet. Like this girl here, she might let me pet her. Maybe.
She's camera shy.
She might be a little bit, but she's pretty cool. I got a couple around here. Well, there's a couple in the fall group I know I can pet them. I can get pretty close to the bull. I try to keep him pretty tame.
It doesn't help that I'm here.
No, and it's funny because Christy, my wife, comes out with me all the time, and Seth, my son, and he helps us here on the farm too when he gets a chance. And yeah, when they're around, they never act the same when they're with me. They'll do anything for me, but when they're with me, they're just a little bit different. But yeah, they're pretty cool. We got some old genetics. Some of the genetics in here are actually from Antietam Meadows Farms across the road. Probably it would be pushing 10th, 11 generations of them. Especially like the red cow, which is a red cow laying right here. That is definitely some old genetics. Was raised on this farm, but the bulls came from across the road on Antietam can't see the meadows. And I know we got another cow up here on the hill. It's got some real genetics in it. And then I have a couple cows that I bought heifers from my father back when I was about 18. I bought 2 cows from my dad, and there's some lineage in here, and actually the one I can pet and almost pet, and then her mother was standing here too. They are probably they're 13, 14 generations back from genetics. So most of it, it's not really a closed herd, but because I buy bulls, but I don't buy cows. I raise everything that's here as replacement heifers. So.
And it's not. I know that you said the bull was purebred, but everything else, I got white faces, got a red one,
Yeah, they're just commercial black cattle is what we call them, except for a little red. But if you look close at that red cow, she's brindle. There's black in her, and her calf is black. She always has a black calf, but she's brindle. There's Hereford way back where, and some Charolais actually in there. But that's her calf there behind her. She's getting old. This cow here is, if you can believe, she's 15. She's 15 years old. Same way with the black white face up there on the hill. She's 15. They are some of the oldest cows I got. And then some young cows like this one right here is only a second calf heifer. The one behind her is that's like a 6-year-old, but she's had 4 calves already for me. I got 3 first calf heifers in here, which was their very first time. So I got anywhere from first calf heifers to, which are 3 years old, to 15 years old. And 15-year-old probably will go to market at the end. When she gets done raising that calf, she'll probably end up at the market this year. She's having trouble getting around. I was glad to get her calf out, have her calf, and this will probably be it for her. She'll go up the road.
All right.
Yeah. I do make hay here on this farm. This year, I'm going to end up making about 350 round bales, and like I said earlier, I do feed the spring cows that through the winter, and it depends. Like last summer, we got so dry around here in August, late July, August. I had to start feeding some hay in August, and that is not ever good for me to feed hay in August. Normally I have enough grass to get me through till just 1st of December anyway, and then we'll start feeding the cow herds. But I do have that, and I do have some pretty decent hay equipment because I run out of time, and I run out of help, because if I can't get my brother or my son Seth or Chrissy to help me, I got to go out there and do it myself. So I do have some pretty decent hay equipment. And then I do a lot of work with fencing around here. I use a lot of high tensile fence and probably more of what's called polywire. That is a nylon wire, and it's braided, and it also has 9 strands of stainless steel within it. Let me get this lantern fly off my cameraman here. We do have lantern flies here, which are not good. They're working on the sumac trees and stuff, but we do have a lot of them around here. But yeah, I'll use stainless or high tensile wire to my longer runs, and then to separate out my cells, and more for the intensive grazing side of it, I'll use poly wire. And like I say, I get that from like Henko or somebody like that. Even there's some local stores that'll sell it. And then I also have some decent charger. Well, not decent. I have some real good chargers on. I have a big Gallagher charger. I run this farm on 3 different chargers. I have one charger back towards the west end of the farm that runs. I could run the entire farm on it, but I just like having them separated, just because. I got a little charger that runs around my brother's property and around my barn, and then I have another charger that runs out of my parents' property that runs about where these girls get to, the spring cows get to.
Well, I can testify that I've been laid out before.
One got me this morning. I got long legs, so I just climb over, and then one of them got me on the inside of my leg. It cracked, and I was like, it didn't hurt me, but it just arced enough that oh yeah, it's there. That's for sure. The one charger I have back now, the big Gallagher charger I actually have a fence tester now. It's a fault finder where you can find faults in the fence, like if you have a tree down or wires on the ground shorting out, it'll tell you where it's at. And then I can also turn the fence charger off from anywhere I'm at along that wire. I can put it on there and hit a button, and it'll turn that charger off. And then you won't get shocked. It's safe.
There's no trees around here. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Even this morning, I went out and I was working up 4 different trees that had fallen down within the past week. Saturday night we had a little storm blow through, and it blew 2 trees down. And that's a time-consuming job. I could work on trees 24/7 and never get done.
We were talking before about your dad, my grandfather, and how American wire to high tensile. I remember as a kid we used to put up a lot of barbed wire, just straight barbed wire. It'd be a 5-wire fence, and we'd roll that barbed wire out and have to wear big leather gloves, which I still do today, but we needed them with that barbed wire. But we'd roll that out and staple it on the post and pull it tight, and that was great. I mean, we'd also built some American wire fences, especially closer to where the cattle were going to be started to crowd. Like if you had to chase them, we'd put up American wire. The barbed wire, they'd sort of run through it if they've gone fast enough. And then later on in the 80s, I like I said, I went to college and came home one week. I'll never forget it. I came home one weekend and I told Dad about high tensile fencing, and I had already put some up down in Virginia. And quote unquote, I remember him saying that shit won't work. But within the next 10 years after that, probably my dad was one of the founding fathers of cell grazing with polywire and just the first fence we built was like 10-wire high tensile wire fence, no electric, but we knew we had to get electric in it, but it had to start from somewhere. We ended up, and nowadays we just use one strand of high tensile wire or one strand of polywire, and these cows respect that stuff to no end. Now, don't get me wrong, my fences are hot, and they're hot all the time, and I check them not daily but every other day at least to make sure they're hot. But my dad, he did a lot of pioneering in the cell grazing, went around, taught a lot of people. I was a helper for some guys last couple years. They were getting started with cattle, and I did the same thing. Try to set up farms with cell grazing and water, how to get the cows back to water and shade and all that good stuff. We'll definitely have shade here.
Yeah, they love this little place here. Minerals, we feed minerals to cattle, and right now I'm feeding a feed. It's called Clarifly. It's actually a feed-through insecticide that they can then take it, and it is deposited in their manure, and then it won't allow flies the flies will lay their eggs, but it won't allow the eggs to hatch. So I'm trying to cut down on flies, and these girls today don't have hardly any flies on them, which is very amazing for this time of year, first part of July here. We got a bunch of horn flies normally and face flies. And I even got some pink eye going on in here. Me and Christy and Seth, we treated them last weekend. We had about 8 different cases starting up, and we got all them treated. I think I got 1 or 2 new ones, which I got to try to get in. That's the only problem with the way we raise the cattle and calves here with the cell grazing and all. I can't get my cows to a barn or a corral or a head catch. I can't do it. It's not easy. And when I do take them towards a barn or a corral, they know something's up, and it's always bad. So they don't like going. But we do have pink eye this year. I don't know. I was telling Casey earlier, and
And yeah, we didn't have hardly any. I don't even know if I had one case of pink eye last year, but this year I've already had, like I said, 8, and I think I got 2 more little calves that's got it. It's always something on the farm. Something is always going on around here for sure. And I don't. It's just one of those things. It moves in here, and then the flies spread it, and you got to deal with it. I mean, they'll lose their eyes over it. All the ones we got treated. I think they'll be okay. We got one cow that we might not have got to it in time, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. But yeah, you got to treat it, and there's always something. I mean, the foot problems. I mean, last year when it got real dry in July and August, we ended up with a couple cows getting foot rot, which is amazing. It's known for wet ground, muddy ground. But when it gets dry too, their hooves crack open and they'll get soreness in their feet. We had to treat a couple last year for that. Now we do a yearly vaccination program with respiratories and clostridials, and we don't do much worming on the old cows. We don't worm very much on the old cows. We do worm the weanlings if I'm keeping them, or the yearlings. We'll worm them, but the old cows, unless they look like they need it, I'm not going to bother worming them, but I will keep the clostridials and respiratories going for the yearly vaccinations.
Now, you don't normally call in a vet. You normally handle everything yourself, correct?
Yeah, I don't. If I got to call a vet, it's never good. If I have to call a vet, it's never good, and probably that cow won't make it. It's a serious problem. That cow probably won't make a calf, whatever it is. If I have to call a vet, it probably won't make it. 2 years ago, I called a vet. I had a cow calving. It was a first calf heifer. She pushed too hard and pushed her placenta out, and I myself could not get it back in. I didn't have my wife; she was away. I didn't have any help. I called a vet, and between us both, it's a chore. We pushed it back in her and sewed her up, and she had another calf this year. So it's amazing, and that thing was laying on the ground, and we got all that gathered back up, put it back in her. Like I say, we sewed her up a little bit, and yeah, I just couldn't physically. It was about 30 pounds of
internal organs
stuff, and it's hard to grasp. You can't hang on to it, and you got to get it back in her, and you got to clean it as you're going. I mean, you don't want to put dirt, mud, and everything else back in it. So you got to clean it as you push, and I just couldn't do it, and didn't have any help. So I did call that there, but I have had a couple problems with one year. I had grass tetany in early spring. That's a lack of magnesium in the grass and what they're eating, and I can just start feeding the hay again, and that'll take care of that. Or calcium. You can also give them a calcium bolus, or they got some paste out now. You can give them orally. That would solve that problem. Other than that, I don't really have any other diseases. Another thing, I'm looking at a thistle up here that's been sprayed. Seth gets around and sprays thistles. We do run a 4-wheeler with a sprayer, like a 15-gallon sprayer tank on the back of it, and he goes around and hand sprays a lot of weeds. So yeah, we try to keep the pastures as clean as we can.
I am.
This is we call this the green barn. Used to be a bank barn back. I think it was originally built in the late 40s. 1993, it got in such bad shape, my parents decided to have it torn down, and then they put the metal structure up, what's on the old foundation today. So 94, it was finished with the new metal structure. And the only reason why it's really clean in here right now is because we had our daughter's wedding in here last year. It was in middle of June. And it is still really clean. In this barn, I did fill it up with hay this spring, but yeah, it's still really clean compared to what it used to be. But yeah, the same underneath foundation, and the old, like, it's got a cow stable over here. It's got a horse stable at the other end that the old timers used to use and keep other animals and livestock in it. But yeah, I just use it for hay storage now and equipment storage for wintertime.
hopefully here in a couple of weeks we can bale a couple square bales. If I can find some help, we'll bale a couple square bales and we'll throw them over here, and I sell some square bales throughout the winter. I sell a little bit of hay throughout the winter also to some local people here that have horses and such.
How many bales you got in here?
There is about 172 bales stacked in this side of the barn. So yeah, it goes. There's 2 mows here. Like this is a mow, that's a mow, and the 2 more mows over here. It's a big barn. It's a 95-foot barn lengthwise, and it's 42 feet with the full bay up deep. But yeah, it is very clean though. It's never normally like this. It did take us, when we had our daughter's wedding, it took us literally a year and a half to clean up this area. We had it in part of our wedding was out here around the corner at the wagon shed, and other things. The barn and such was outside the barn here, and it was very, very nice. And we had the boys down underneath, all the groomsmen and such in the old cow stable. We cleaned it up real well, put an indoor-outdoor carpet down there. And yeah, they liked it. Kept them a little cooler that day, but we had a great day. So, and then I don't know if Casey wants to pan around here a little bit, but lots of cedar trees. This all happened. I have a picture that I keep beside of my my recliner in my house. That this field, it was an aerial shot, and it was from only the early 1980s. And that field had no cedar trees in it. And my dad still worked at Mack Trucks, and my mom still helped at the farm. But us boys were all going. I was away at college, and everybody was growing up, doing other things. And well, the cedar trees took over. And now you see this, what happened to this field. I try not to let that happen to any other fields, because I look at that picture all the time and just despise it. And there is some rough terrain here on this farm. We have some limestone rock ledges that drop off 10 feet just over here. There's ledges that drop off 10, 12 feet over there. I mean, if a cow fell off them, they would definitely get hurt. We have a little area up here on top of the hill where my grandfather used to make lime. It's where he started fires at, on top of the limestone ridges, and made his own lime to lime his fields with. The hole was still in the ground there. I mean, it's got grass growing on it now, but you can't really tell anything. But that's where he used to start his fires, on top of the limestone. They'd crack all up, and he'd bust them up with the sledgehammer and make his own lime. But yeah, we don't do that these days. Maybe we should.
Might save a little money on.
Yeah, there's even an old hay rake out there of my grandfather's. That's my grandfather's sitting out there. Yeah, we don't use that anymore. It's just more or less what the cows rubble on it anymore. But, we did a lot of conservation projects. That was one thing we did when I came back home, which was 97, 98. We did two water trough projects through soil conservation, which I took care of all the paperwork on that, and that's back on the other side of the farm. We put in off of my house well. We had 2 water troughs for that. This concrete water trough right down here was one of my dad's. My dad and I got that put in. That was back in the late 70s, and that was a soil conservation project also. While we were there, we took and ran water up over the hill, and we have another 2 watering troughs up over the hill.
Somewhere that way.
Yeah, we use that, and that's part of our intensive grazing waters. Those 3 waters run off of one well, which is just right here at the barn. And then we have water troughs out on the other side of the farm that run off of my well, my personal house well. So we have power coming from my brother lives here in the old homestead. He's got about 6.5 acres with the old house and homestead that my grandparents lived in, and yeah, that's where we get electric at for the barn.
What did I figure out? 18. I can't remember now.
48.
Something like that.
1848, 47, 48, something like that. Yeah, he's got an old house over there that he's fixed up, and it's nice. I
mean, he's put actually. I think he just finished putting new ductwork in and all this past couple months. But yeah, he fixed that old farmhouse up. He's actually got a wood burning furnace in the basement now, I think, and yeah, he takes care of that place again. Where this property is, if you would look to your northwest, the corner of this property actually runs back to the canal, the Sino Canal, right on the river, and they came through back in the late '60s, '70s. And the federal government bought an easement from my grandfather of like 2.37 acres back there in the back corner, right along the canal. And they forced him to sell it to him. And he thought it was good money. I think he got $797 for it. And I remember, even as a little kid, I was just young then, but I remember as a little kid him being so happy that he got that much money for that land. That wasn't worth anything. That's all wooded back there. That's about where the 48 acres of woodland is, and that was part of it. But he was a happy man when he got that.
See, I'm learning stuff.
Yeah, I do remember a couple things like that as a kid. But I do remember, like, even Pap and Grandma, I remember animals being down here in the bottom of the barn. I remember horses, and I remember some pigs. I remember Pap with his old case tractors, and I remember going out over that hill, going over there and making hay and trying to lift a bale of hay. I think, man, I was only 4 or 5 years old. I couldn't lift a bale of hay, but they'd stick me on that wagon and try. I'd give her my best shot. But yeah, I do remember a little bit of that with my grandfather. And then, like I say, my brothers helped out a lot around here and across the road on Antietam Meadows.
So it's safe to say that farming's in the blood.
Farming is definitely in the blood. I knew like I said earlier, if I wasn't going to be a vet, I was going to be a farmer. I knew that. And even my full-time off-farm job is I'm a farmer. I drive an hour. Every day to go farm. I drive. It's in the Poolsville area. Most of our farms are.
But they're paying you to farm.
Yeah, I get paid. That's my paid job. Yeah, this job doesn't pay much. I get a paycheck twice a year with the wean cattle that I sell. That's my 2 paychecks I get every year, and I get a lot of free help. My wife helps me a lot, especially when I'm down the road in spring planting for my job, and then fall harvest for my job. She checks cows for me, checks calves for me. Well, like I say, the spring calving herd and the fall calving herd, they're having calves, so I gotta have somebody look at them. I don't like just letting them out there. Somebody needs to look at them every day. So she runs out there in the evenings. She works off the farm too. She's a nurse off the farm, and when she comes home, she'll either hike it out and go check them, or grab a 4-wheeler and go check cows for me and let me know what's going on. I can get to them either late night or early first thing the next morning. Most times first thing the next morning, because most time I don't get home till 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Now, how far back does farming go? I know they traced it. I'm pretty sure it went that you can remember. I know we have the family property.
Family farm wise. Man, I don't know. You got the Poffenberger farm on the battlefield. I mean, I know my dad helped there as a kid. Grew up there. I mean, spent weekends and nights there. That was his uncle. Well, that would have been one of his uncles that had that farm. But he grew up there working horses and such back in the day. And I mean, that his grandfather, his father farmed that before him. I'd say in the Poffenberger family, man, it's got to go back. I mean, I'm 4th. It's got to go back minimum 5th, if not 6th at least, I would say, generations of farming in our family. It's been some tough terrain. Don't ask me why they ended up settling here, because there is some rough terrain on this farm. If there had been any place, if they could have just walked a little further or made it somewhere a little further, they could have got a little bit smoother land, less limestone rocks sticking out of it. The ground is very fertile here. But, yeah, it definitely goes back a ways.
We didn't plan any of this, so it's one of those. He didn't have to go to work, and
right.
It's my birthday, so
there you go.
Well, I thank you.
Sure. No problem. Nice having you around.
All right. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe.